Welcome back to the show, guys. I'm your host, Kacee Allen. We've got a great show tonight. Thanks for tuning in. My apologies for starting a bit late. We're trying to get things started at 9 p.m. Eastern on a regular basis, but getting started has been a bit of a challenge, especially with all the stories we had to talk about tonight. With that being said, our featured story is going to be the latest on the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Suspect Luigi Mangione has been taken in, although it's not been completely proven whether he was the one that is behind this or not. We're also going to talk about the allegations with Jay-Z, TikTok filing an emergency injunction to avoid being banned in the US, and we're going to talk about the interview with Christian Welker and President Trump. Also, we'll mention what happened with Daniel Penny if we have time. So starting with the UnitedHealthcare CEO murder. It's pretty crazy. It's probably been the most developing and trending story throughout the week. Mangione, the suspect, is a 26-year-old former Ivy League student from the University of Pennsylvania. He was apprehended days later in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The arrest came after a McDonald's employee recognized him from NYPD's widely circulated surveillance images. When arrested, Mangione was found with a 3D printed gun, a silencer, multiple fake IDs, and a manifesto that reportedly criticized the healthcare industry, branding UnitedHealthcare as a profiteering at the expense of patients' care. He's now charged with murder, various weapons offenses, and forgery. His background paints a picture of a once promising student, a valedictorian who worked hard at tech companies like TrueCar, before his life took the dark turn. His family has expressed shock and devastation and offering prayers for everything involved. So if you look at this guy's background, he does not come from poverty. You would expect someone like this to be someone that's arguably low class, low morals, and comes from a poor family. In this sense, it's the quite opposite. This guy came from a rich family, and the biggest claim and reasoning people have alleged that he is behind this is because his issues with the healthcare industry. He apparently put on X that he had issues with his back. Currently, he had something done with his back that he got x-rays, and he expressed a lot of frustration towards that company. Then he goes and does this, allegedly. And unlike many criminals, this guy isn't a ghost online. He actually has 300,000 followers on X and even is verified. This is not the typical criminal. Usually you'd have someone who is not even on the internet. You'd have to do hours and hours of research. Everyone on X knew who this guy was within the first 2 hours of his name being released. He's got a massive following. If you look at the posts that he's made, he reposts somewhat conservative ideas and seems like he's not exactly a crazy person based on his reposts. But again, that doesn't speak to everything of this person. He could be dealing with all sorts of issues like his family has said. So I don't know, you have a lot of people that have said that, oh, there's no way this is him. They compare the pictures from before and after. And I don't know, I've looked at it myself, and I don't think it's conclusive that you can say this is not the same guy. But I think it's a possibility. And another thing we know about PSYOPs and the way the mainstream media works and these highlighted events that are in the spotlight, there's usually something at play here, something more, especially for a story like this. And we mentioned it on yesterday's episode a little bit, touched on it briefly before we actually even knew there was a suspect apprehended. We actually thought that he wasn't going to get caught because, like we said previously, the odds of catching a murder after the first 72 hours is like 3%. The narrative I have trouble understanding is that if he really was having frustration with the healthcare industry and he needed money for things, well, he comes from a family that had a $1.5 million home. I just don't understand that line of thinking. If he's someone that needed the money for something, he probably could get it. It's one thing to load the gun, it's another thing to pull the trigger, and it's another thing to actually execute the job. And that's what this guy did, or somebody did, if it was him or not, which in my opinion, I think it is this guy. Here is his lawyer who says there is not a shred of evidence on this guy and claims that he should be free.
I haven't seen any evidence that says that he's the shooter. So that's, like I said earlier, and I wasn't kidding around. A couple of things. If you're going to report something, report accurately. And remember, and this is not just a small thing, the fundamental concept of American justice is a presumption of innocence, and until you're proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I've seen zero evidence at this point.
Is this a false flag? Is this a distraction? Not sure. We'll report on whatever we find next. Now we're going to go to the Jay-Z story. So rapper Jay-Z, who is, I believe, the only billionaire rapper, has been accused of sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl. And this is from the year 2000. The story is that after some music awards party, Jay-Z and a bunch of rappers, I'm not sure if Diddy was there or not, they went to some after party, and for some reason some 13-year-old girl was there, which is weird. And she alleges that she was assaulted by Jay-Z. Jay-Z came out with a letter denying all these allegations. It doesn't really seem like it was written by him, though. It seemed like someone with a more of a legal profession. But this is really weird because obviously we know about what happened with Diddy. Diddy is currently in federal lockup right now after there are just irrefutable evidence that this guy has done some crazy things and is tied to some very powerful figures. Whether Jay-Z is in there or not, I'm not sure. There's been warnings about it over time. I mean, you've heard Kacee say some things about Jay-Z. There's been some weird things in his music. You know, there's been some conspiracies that Rockefellers, that he's tied into that group somehow. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation when it comes to that. From what I've seen and looked at, I think it's a shakedown. I think it's likely that someone just trying to get a lot of money out of Jay-Z. Because we're seeing these things more and more as time goes on. We're just seeing people just play this ugly, ridiculous lawfare game where they just want to sue people for the most ridiculous things. In this case, it happened in 2000. I mean, I'm not discrediting this if it's true. It very well could be. But you have to consider that it's a possibility that this could be something that is, again, what happened to Tate, Trump. Many people we've seen have been accused of sexual charges. I mean, that's pretty much how they can discredit you in the easiest way. So whether Jay-Z is guilty of this, like I said, I'm not sure. Don't want to make any conclusive allegations or conclusive thoughts here, but it is weird that he is connected with Diddy. I mean, if you look up Jay-Z and Diddy right now, they've got a lot of pictures together. It's no rocket science. There's no mystery there. They obviously are very connected, went to the same parties, knew the same people. I mean, made the same music together. So, I mean, it makes you think, like, I'm sure that Jay-Z had to have known something about Diddy. There's no way that Jay-Z was just 1,000% shocked to find out that Diddy was guilty of all these things. Like, you have to think that Jay-Z knew something, saw something, heard something from somebody else, especially as much of a power player someone like him is. It's hard to believe that he had no idea about that. But like I said, it doesn't necessarily make him automatically guilty of what they're accusing him of here. So this is the very beginning of this allegation. I don't know if this is something that's actually going to go through court. My guess is whoever is trying to get money out of him, they'll either pay her off and just end it real quick, or, I mean, I don't know. I think it has to be conclusive evidence, and there's been none of that so far. It's all just speculation. So now we're going to look at the TikTok situation. So TikTok is battling a ban right now, and I'm actually supporting TikTok here because I think it's crazy that we have U.S. politicians that want to ban free speech in our country. It sets a dangerous precedent that they want to take away someone who can create a technology that, you know, it might be from a different country, but it is better and it is sufficient. It's stable. It can produce money and goods. I mean, TikTok is the e-commerce hub of the future. I mean, it is a great platform to monetize and build your brand for really anybody. If you're a content creator or you're just simply wanting to be involved in the world. So TikTok has filed for an emergency injunction to block the ban that's been looming over the national security concerns. And I believe the 19th is when they're going to go to court, and this will be January, so coming up soon. I really hope this does not happen. And people are also failing to realize that the TikTok ban also bans US websites. So if you create a website in the United States, it can be banned by the president. So that's something they just threw in that bill that people aren't paying attention. Another thing is they are worried about the anti-Semitism, allegedly, because supposedly, even as much as TikTok censors, many, even Republicans and Democrats, and you have mainly the Israeli lobby that is heavily complaining about TikTok not censoring criticism of Israel. And that's where this whole, right and left are agreeing to ban this here, or at least most people are. Again, it's taking away free speech. People like myself are making a living off TikTok and actually, building a decent brand and offering good products and services. That's not capitalism. That's not what America's founded on. We don't just take technologies that are good and take them away from our people because we think we're helping them, or we're afraid that our national intelligence or national security is a threat. No, this is a way we need to innovate the technology. We have to be innovative about this. We don't need to take it away. We don't need to take the liberties and these advancements away from our people. We need to make them prosperous. And if we're like China, who is actually utilizing these things, ByteDance has created TikTok, CapCut, Lemonade, they keep going. It's a great company. Although I heavily disagree with the way they censor. I've lost so many accounts and been demonetized before on TikTok. But again, the reach is astounding. And that's something we cannot turn away. Even someone like President Trump is supportive of TikTok. He's done very well. He even admitted with Christian Welker in the interview, which we'll play a clip here. He says his campaign was very successful from TikTok, and he wants to actually fight to keep it.
In TikTok being banned, you said you're going to rescue TikTok when you get into office. Are you going to take steps to protect it?
Yeah, and as you know, I used TikTok very successfully in my campaign. I have a man named TikTok Jack. He was very effective, obviously, because I won youth by 30%. All Republicans lose youth. I don't know why. Maybe it's changing. And last time we were down 30% with youth. This time we're up 35% with youth. And I use TikTok, so I can't really, I can't totally hate it. It was very effective. But I will say this, if you do that, something else is going to come along and take its place. And maybe that's not fair. What they're doing, and really what the judge actually said was that you can't have Chinese companies. In other words, they have the right to ban it if you can prove that the Chinese companies own it. That's what the judge actually said.
So are you going to try to protect TikTok just very quick once you're in office?
I'm going to try and make it so that other companies don't become an even bigger monopoly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I hope they keep TikTok. There's really no reason to ban it. Like I said, I don't think they're really doing us a favor by taking away technology that, in my case, is only helping me. And yes, I get it. There's many concerns about TikTok and harming the youth, and there's a conversation to be had there. I get it. It's very manipulative, but completely getting rid of it, that's never been successful in history. Stalin, the Soviet Union, things that they opposed and disagreed with, they just got rid of it completely. And for the government to tell us that, the people that we elect, that swear to represent us and our best interests, seems like they're selling us out. And like I said, there's a pretty good reason to understand why they're doing this. They're not just doing this for no reason. Follow the money. If you follow the money, you'll be surprised what you find. These people are manipulated. They're incentivized to want to get rid of TikTok, especially if there are people on the platform that are harshly criticizing the lobbies and the special interests that are paying their bills. Not rocket science. And our final story here, it's actually a good one, and many people in the, South Side community aren't going to be too happy about this, but Daniel Penny has been acquitted. The guy who on the New York subway choked out Jordan Neely, the homeless man who, he's a black guy, was terrorizing people on the subway in New York, which, again, one of the worst places to be. I would never recommend someone to take the subway in a city like that in today's world. because New York is lawlessness. In Daniel Penny's case, he was a good Samaritan trying to do the right thing. He chose to stand up and help the people around him that were not brave enough to stand up to someone that was a threat to them. Like many stories we've covered before, the world is trying to tell you, you cannot defend yourself. It's not up to you to do that. They're telling you, you should have been the person that stood there and did nothing and let everything happen and rely on law enforcement to show up, or if they show up, to subdue that person who is deemed a threat. That's a terrible mindset. Being a reactionary to everything is just asking for problems. If you just react to the problem and just react to that and react to it, how are you going to solve anything? You got to actually go to the root of the problem. You got to solve what's actually happening. So that's the issue here. They think that we're just going to rely on law enforcement. You're nothing. You're just dirt. You're just a regular person who pays their taxes. You don't get to make the decision whether to subdue someone, or you don't get to decide whether someone's a threat to other people. And that's what happened. He got arrested, he got charged for murder, and then, thank goodness, he got acquitted. But again, you've got a lot of people that are very upset about this. There's some Black Lives Matter type groups that are making some death threats, and I would expect that this guy Penny is going to have some special security, maybe witness protection. I don't know, because there are a lot of upset people about this. If you're someone that supports Jordan Neely and George Floyd, then you're just a bonehead. I mean, there's no other way to put it. People like that are menaces to society. They prey on the weak. They are the weak. I mean, they have no interest in being a function or a value to society. They just make problems for other people. And that's why we have issues like this. That's why people that are trying to do the right thing are the ones that get in trouble. They end up in jail. They end up going through the process in the system. Like Daniel Penny, who was never convicted of anything, what did he have to gain here? He only lost from this, and now he's going to have to deal with the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, hoping no one actually comes after him. Because, like I said, there's a lot of people that are mad about this. Like, I'm not kidding, like, seriously making threats. Which, again, I hope if anyone's watching this, I advise you not to do that. There are so many ways that we can solve things in society, and if you're just a bonehead that's out here making dumb threats like that, you clearly aren't doing your research. Yeah, I don't know, there's a lot going on right now. We're still waiting to see if all Trump's cabinet picks get approved. And then before we wrap things up, we can talk about Trump's interview with Kristen Welker. I still don't know why he does these mainstream media interviews. He talks about how the legacy media is dying and all this, and he just goes on with them and does these weird interviews. Again, if that's what he wants to do, go ahead. It's not hurting anybody. It just doesn't make much sense. And I thought the overall conversation was decent. If you're actually trying to, I guess, speak in terms of the legacy media, it was more objective than most interviews. It wasn't as much of a pushback. It wasn't like those 60-minute ones. She was actually open, seeming like she wanted to find answers and actually get something out of Trump, which it's not that you can respect that. It's like, okay, you guys should have always been doing this. You should have been trying to be objective. And Trump even said that. He said, you had potential to Welker. He said, you had potential to be a good journalist or whatever, and you blew it. Like I said, he talked about the TikTok bill and potentially trying to save it, although it's not certain whether that's going to happen or not. And he actually said something that was a little strange. Apparently there's this whole new thing called October 7th deniers. It's the first I'm hearing of it. I'm not really sure what that is exactly supposed to entail, because we all know October 7th happened. I mean, some of us have different understandings of how that happened, what led up to that. But deniers, like, what are you denying? So I'm not really sure what he meant about that. And then Trump also went to France to meet with Macron and Zelensky, which I thought was interesting because Macron is with Russia, and obviously Zelensky is the nemesis of Russia. So I'm wondering what happened there. Did they have a conversation talking about how they're going to save Ukraine? Are they trying to work out some sort of peace deal? I would love to know what happened in that conversation. I feel like that would be a really big insight as to what is going to happen over the next couple of years, especially with these geopolitical events and all the wars going on in the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine. That's a pretty big factor, so keep that in mind. Remember that. Trump met with Emmanuel Macron and Vladimir Zelensky. It's like, I think it's his first time leaving the country as president-elect. I think that conversation is going to have a lot to do with whatever's next. Well, that's about it. Like I said, you guys can smash the super chat, like, follow, repost, ask us any question you like, and we'll answer it next time on the show. Feel free to support, share on all platforms. There's a share button below, and you can subscribe with our new premium deal. So I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We've got another show tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to try to be ready by then. And haven't decided what we're going to talk about yet. There's still a few developing stories. We're going to do another conspiracy investigation. I know you guys like the D.B. Cooper one. We're going to do something that's not necessarily in the 24/7 news spectrum, kind of take it off track, do something a bit different. Might do something about the Denver International Airport, Bermuda Triangle. I'm not sure. Something with the planes would be interesting. Might do something like that again. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a good show, and we'll see you then.